Hi. Morning, Rick. How are you?
I'm driving. I just dropped off the kids to school, so.
No, I get it. I got to get my daughter ready here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Kenneritz.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Steven. So awesome. Let's do some of our beginning routines here. So we've got a special meeting today because we got some special guests, and so I'll get through some of this morning stuff routine, and then I'll be able to introduce who we have here as our special guests, and let them take over so that they can kind of share what they've got going on. So kind of want to just go around the room. Gianni, what's new with you? Challenges, wins, thoughts, questions? Oh, you're on mute, Gianni.
Oh, thank you. Nothing new for me lately, Mason. How about yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll start off with saying that it's been a busy week already. I've got it was really a busy last Friday with getting a home on the market. And then,
You got that listed already on Friday?
yeah, I got a house listed on Friday in Puyallup, and then got a house under contract that same day on Friday. And then I also sold my old car on that one day, and
Oh, wow.
that was a busy day.
Awesome.
So that's what's new in my world right now. And let's go on to Rick. What's new in your world? Challenges, wins, thoughts?
So I am reading this book, Atomic Habits, and it is literally changing my life. It's how tiny changes can bring about remarkable results. And it's just, I think I've spent so much time highlighting every single word in the book that it's just like, I don't even know. All I'm doing is highlighting the entire book. It's amazing. So
Awesome.
I'll be definitely on my Wednesday masterminds. I'll be definitely spending some time here in probably the month of December, where we'll really start to break this stuff down. So
awesome.
That's what's new.
Great. I did forget to kind of just mention, so since Nam and Brian, some of the new people on here, is just that I kind of like to start what Rick calls fire starters, but this is kind of just going around the room and getting wins, thoughts, and any challenges and questions so that we can discuss it afterwards or bring it up in a topic that we can take offline too. So that's just for Nam and Brian, just so you know what's going on in our morning routine here. Steven, what's new with you? Challenges, wins, thoughts?
Huge win last week. So my listing, we went on the market Saturday of the previous weekend, not the last weekend, because we had everything together, and we were planning on, going on the market on Sunday, but we had everything ready on Saturday. So we were just like, well, let's not wait, because we don't know what's going on. There's Meta layoffs. My seller works for Meta. So we had a successful showing day on Sunday. We had 10 showings, and then we had 2 showings on Monday. And then the offer, one cash offer came in. Listing price was 1.5. Cash offer with a 10-day inspection contingency came in at 1.43. So $70K below asking. And I then contacted all the showing agents, and we were able to get another financing offer, but waive financing. At first, this agent kept calling me, kept trying to find out what kind of cash offer But I was like, it was getting late on a Tuesday, and then Meta layoffs were on a Wednesday morning. So I told that financing offer buyer agent to submit an offer, or else we're gonna counter. And then it took him forever, so I just countered the cash offer, and then he came in with a better offer with everything waived, waive financing, waive inspection, early release of 80K earnest money. Yeah, and it was a way better offer than the cash offer, and it was only 20,000 below our asking price. So we had to withdraw the counter offer on the cash offer, and then later on the cash offer didn't want to resubmit, so we just went pending that with that financing offer at 11 p.m. at night. And then Meta started announcing layoffs around like 4 a.m. And luckily my seller is safe. He didn't get let go. So huge win. He was on crunch. So we went pending, and the appraisal came back and it supported the value yesterday. And then we're getting ready to release the earnest money today. So huge win. I was kind of worried that we wouldn't get any offers, but last weekend's open houses were pretty eventful from my other sales meeting. So I think the market has reacted a little bit to the interest rates, because I think it dropped by quite a bit just because of that CPI day announcement. So huge win for me last week.
Awesome. Congratulations, Stephen.
Thank you.
Kenneret, what's new in your world? Any challenges, wins, thoughts?
No, nothing new right now. Hey, thanks for tagging me on that post, Rick, on the adult family home. Yeah, I missed that one, but yeah, the guy, he just emailed me, so I'm looking at that right now.
I got your back, Kenneret. Don't you worry.
Thanks.
Michelle, any thoughts, wins, questions?
Oh, I went to Disneyland for 2 days, took the kids and my friends Friday and Saturday. So we were there. We had 2 moms with 6 kids in my minivan. we went till closing, so we didn't get back to the hotel till like 1:30 in the morning both nights. We had a blast. So it's part of living the lifestyle. So, and during that time I was still managing our rentals, and helping on those kind of things. So it's kind of cool. And I had a good chat with Gianni yesterday. She has great questions about our investment experience in Texas. And so I'm excited to help her and any of you really it's about building multiple streams of income with EXP, and also just with real estate investing or businesses, so if there's anything we can do to support you there and just cheer you on, let me know.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. That was great talking to you yesterday.
Awesome. That's great. So the kind of next part I want to get into is kind of like the upcoming EXP classes. As you know, EXP offers a virtual world where you can attend over 50 hours of training every week. And so I chose the class of the week as how to talk to anyone, unlocking personality profiles. And that's this Thursday at 2 p.m. And kind of just here's that list of calendar events. And so Thursday, this one here, I brought this one up as kind of the class of the week because I know some of us newer agents that's on the call sometimes needs to either can be shy or not really know how to talk to people. So this I feel like would be a good intro into kind of breaking that ice into talking with people and kind of analyzing in deeper effects of like different personalities and how you can kind of attract and engage with different personalities. All right, and now I want to kind of get into special guests that we have today. We've got Brian and we got Nam from Flynn Family Lending, and I got introduced to them back in over the summertime. They had a networking event out in Bellevue, and it was great just to get out there and network, and then meet and find out what they're able to do with alternative financing, how they've been able to put projects together. And this is kind of that resource that I want, for our network, our culture to know about, just because we're going to come across different scenarios, different types of clients. Every situation is very different. And so this is kind of adding more tools in our toolbox for everybody. And this is adding more to our resources. So with that being said, I want to give the floor to Nam and Brian. I know that Nam has a hard stop at 8:30, which is fine because he's got to take his daughter to school. And then Brian will be kind of being able to answer any questions that we have. So I will let it go. If you guys need to share your screen, I am allowing you to do that too, Nam or Brian.
Yeah.
Will do. I'll have Brian. He could share his screen, but I'll do a quick introduction, just kind of for you guys to understand what we do here at Flynn Family Lending. So I'm sure whether you guys have or have not heard about the terms of private money and hard money lending, right? It's just alternative financing to your standard conventional bank loans. The way that I really like to paint the picture to keep it simple is I see Flynn Family Lending as we are private money matchmakers. So typically when you hear the term hard money, high interest rate, short-term loans, it's just to get you across the finish line for projects, properties or whatnot that a bank won't finance because there's no value in it. And that's when you kind of go towards the hard money side of things. Hard money lenders, they're typically institutionally backed or funded by a fund or a syndicate of some sort. And that being said, they still do credit checks. They're going to take a look at your DTI. There has to be certain values inside the home, and they like to be in first position in the event that you default, that they want to be able to utilize that property or that house as collateral. With us, with Flynn Family Lending, we're truly private capital. We have a pool of, I want to say about 75 to 80 investors or so, that when you guys have a project that you want to take down, or you have a client that has a project they want to take down, you come to us and we match them up with one of our lenders who like your story, like the project. If the numbers make sense, then they'll pretty much do that. And because we're truly private capital, where we don't have a fund or a syndicate or an institution to get approval from, we could get a little bit more creative. For one, we don't look at your DTI. We don't look at what your credit score is. If the deal makes sense, I like what Matt Flynn, the owner of our company, says. He goes, "Hey, if you would do it, if you would do it with your mom's money, then we would most likely do it too." Because we're truly private capital, to add on to the benefits of that, we do our own in-house evaluations. So you don't have to pay for an appraisal. So it's a lot cheaper for you guys, because we don't do tax return checks and all that other fun stuff. Typically our approval processing time is a lot faster. And also because we're truly private capital, we could also go into second position, leverage the equity of a schedule of real estate to leverage that equity to do the heavy lifting to keep cash liquid in your clients' pockets or even your pockets, so you guys could refinance at the end of the term. But from here, I'll let Brian, you can take it away, sir.
Hey, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all like to get up early here, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull up. I have a little presentation for you guys. As I'm getting this pulled up, I'm curious, do a lot of you guys work with investors, or mostly do you guys do retail biz?
We mostly do retail, but we've come across a lot of questions when we do have clients that do investments too.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. So that is one thing about with Flynn Family Lending. We only do loans that are for business purpose. I'll just throw that out there. So any of your flips, rentals, things like that. Now let me figure out how to share my screen real quick.
Brian, I'm in San Diego and I work with a lot of investors, and I'm looking at your website to see when you're going to be opening in other states like Texas or Arizona. I saw that on your website. So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad to be on and listen to how, because we have potential investors looking in Seattle too. So that would be great to know about what you guys do, how you could help them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go through this PowerPoint real quick. Are you guys able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. There's us. Some cute pictures for you. We are based in Renton, by the way, so we're super local for you guys. Here is a few things that we do. Now, the meat and bones of our business is that we lend private money to folks who are doing any sort of real estate investment projects or businesses. And we are asset-based lenders, so we lend based off of equity in the property. All of our deals are funded by private individuals in the area. They're straight up wiring their own personal funds to fund your deal. That may lead us to some people complaining about the bridge money interest rates, which is funny because in the last few years, we've always been between 10 to 12% on our rates. That's our bridge money rates. And there was a lot of hard money lenders with institutional backed capital who were maybe lending for hard money in the 7-8% range. Well, now Wall Street's all jacked up, so our rates are actually not too bad anymore. So I'm going to say the three biggest situations where somebody would want to use Flynn Family Lending. One would be you want to do another purchase on a property and maybe you're very shy on cash, but you have equity. Let's say you own an 8-plex worth $1 million and you only owe $400K on it. You could cross collateralize that property to go to your flip project, for example, a $300K purchase, we could finance close to 100% of. Let me see what else I have on crosses. Cross collateralization, basically using equity in an existing property in lieu of a cash down payment. Back up here. Projects where people maybe went over budget, they're running low on time, they need a little money to finish. We'll look at those situations. We can sometimes give a second mortgage for people to get the funds they need to finish. Here's a few ways that we can fund deals with no money down. One of which would be if you're working on a deal with seller financing. I don't know if any of you guys do deals or have investors that do seller financing, but if you guys have questions on that, let me know. I've got a ton of seller notes myself, so I can kind of help you guys structure your deals on that end. We will close on a purchase with a second mortgage in place behind us. That's something that not very many people will do. Let's just say that you found an old 4-plex with seller financing. We can finance 70% of the purchase price in first position. So that 30% down can pretty much come from anywhere. It could be a seller carryback in second position. This is a really creative way, not that many people know about, to buy properties with no money down. So we'll fund that situation. We'll give you a first mortgage if the seller is willing to carry back 30%. Another situation where we'll fund deals with no money down. We did one actually, don't tell anybody, for my sister, but she's a very experienced investor. She's done a lot of deals with us. So we were able to get creative with her. She brought us a deal where there was about a 40% margin on it for a flip. Pretty good deal. She was buying it like $300K below tax assessed value. We were able to fund the entire purchase for her and give her rehab funds at closing. And that still kept us within our 70% loan to value guidelines. So we like to stay around 70%. The equity can come from a second mortgage, walk-in equity. There's a lot of ways that you can find that down payment from being creative.
Wanted to add real quick as well. Have you guys heard of the term seller financing before?
It would be great for you guys to explain it, just because it's coming up from a very high level overview. So
No.
so some of us.
Absolutely. So a lot of times with the seller financing, it's they're almost holding back the note. They become the lender themselves, right? So let's say you come across a property and you want to purchase it and you need 30-40% down or whatever it may be. You have a little bit of cash that we could kind of utilize to give you cash. But let's say, Mason, if you own the home, you say, okay, it's $1 million home. I'll hold back $400,000 of that note of the $1 million. So you become the bank. The biggest benefit, and for Flynn family, we have a legal team that will help negotiate all the paperwork, and we'll even do the negotiating for you. That's what one of Brian's specialties is. And the benefit that you almost sell these folks is to understand that if Mason, if you sell this home for $1 million today, you have $1 million of taxes that you essentially got to pay on, right? Now, if you're going to carry back $300,000 of that note, it becomes a tax benefit to you in the essence that Brian is negotiate with you. Hey, if you hold back this note for the next 7 years, now you're going to take that $300,000, you're going to break it out over the course of 7 years. And then he's going to put a little sugar on top there for you and say, hey, interest rates at the banks right now are about 8%. How about I pay you 7%? Right? So now you're making interest on top of your money. You're not having to have a huge tax burden. Brian gets a good deal just because he doesn't have to pay the bank 8%, but he's paying you 7% instead. And he still gets the property that he's looking for. And on top of that, for you, Mason, you get the dollar amount that you're looking to sell your home for. You don't necessarily have to discount it. Right. And so that's from a seller financing aspect. It's a creative way. One of our clients, his name is Cody Davis. I think he's 22 years old, Brian. He owns I think 110 or 122 doors. Right. He started at the age of 19, and that's his bread and butter is seller financing. So a lot of times he's been able to come into deals with no money out of pocket. Right. And he's taking down 8 plexes, mostly Moses Lake and up and down the I-5 corridor as well. As far as the second mortgage, I know that I came from the retail world. So a lot of folks ask, wasn't that the same thing as a HELOC? It is yes and no. So with the HELOC, it's a home equity line of credit. In these tight markets right now, there's quite a few folks that are no longer offering HELOCs on investment properties. Or when I worked at the retail banks, they would limit it to, I do believe it's about 4 or 5 doors or 4 or 5 units, if you will. So if you own a couple rental properties plus your primary, that you wouldn't qualify for a home equity line of credit. And that's where Flynn family comes in, that we could tap into that equity for you.
Just not in your primary residence.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to get into? I think I already went over these.
At some point, Brian, we got to talk about how we know each other.
Yeah, and Rick and I know each other from cold calling together back in the day. I remember got my first deal with Rick.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a small world.
Yeah, it's a small world. Let me see. I want to pull up one other presentation real quick. These guidelines, I mean, you can take a quick look at these guidelines. We try to come up with something that, is guidelines, but at the end of the day, every deal is so different. On some deals, maybe we'll go up to 75 LTV. On other deals, we're going to be below 60. So guidelines are not what we do as much as big banks. We kind of lend specifically on each deal. It's a very personalized process. Just because every borrower is different, every deal is different, and we on some deals to protect our lender, maybe we need to be at 55% LTV, and on some of them, maybe we're comfortable lending higher. It just depends. Let me pull up. I have one other presentation. I gave this one at REAPS. I don't know if any of you guys are in there. last week. Let's see. There's a couple little things I want to touch on. Yeah, so I assume most of you guys stay somewhat up to date on the headlines. I know you've probably all seen these headlines, but just take a look here.
You're still on the page on your PowerPoint right now.
Oh, thank you.
So you might have to hit the share button. Or yeah, just stop it and then.
Oh, I see. Let me try that again. You guys see this one?
Yeah, we're on a different one. Could
Okay,
you
cool.
it's kind of on the half side of it. I don't know if you can lower to see the screen, like the notes aspect of it, if that can be closed.
This?
Yeah, that section, just because everything else is the screen is a lot smaller on the or if you there you go.
Cool.
It's
Cool.
still the same size. Or if you can. Yep, there you go.
Cool.
Great.
All right. All right, here's the headlines I was mentioning. Everybody's seen these. How does this really impact us? Well, the cost to buy a house has doubled in the last less than a year. So, think about if you believe that the prices are going to stay even close to the same with the cost doubling to own a home. I personally am pretty bearish on the market. It is tighter to get money right now. A lot of lenders are pulling back. Some lenders are even freezing up operations. Everybody's rates are up, from primary resident to investment property to a bridge loan. Everything is up. So that's why right now we're seeing a lot of these. There's a few types of lenders. Local lenders like us, we fund our deals literally with mom and pop money that is around. Then you get up to those hard money lenders, people that are backed by funds. These are the people that some of them are closing their doors right now because the rates have gone up so much. They have a fund. They are not able to meet the demand needed to pay the interest on their lines of credit. Here's a good one. Funny little nugget. So that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a brief overview of what is cross collateralization. What are a few creative nuggets for ways that you can finance deals? Second mortgage, we cross collateralizing a property with equity. You can do seller financing. We'll use walk-in equity. We don't have a cap on wholesale fees. So very flexible, local, creative. So if any of you guys are working on any deals with people that are looking for investment properties, run them by us, because not only are we lenders, but we're investors. I myself own 17 doors. So if anybody, I guess, I know a thing or two about rentals, if anybody wants to chat about that type of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will open the floor up to you guys. If you have any questions or whatnot.
Yeah, Brian, I have a question. If you went to that page back on the business purpose and loan offerings, like you had a list of kind of examples of what you guys offer, different scenarios there. Can you kind of go? Yeah, it was. Yeah, the loan guidelines, I think. No, not the loan guidelines, but
let me.
Oh, that one right there.
Yes. I have a couple.
Really, Mason, kind of a high overview on that is, as long as it's not personal use and it's not off of your primary home, essentially we could do it, right? So you're going to look at single family homes, multifamily, mixed use properties, commercial buildings. There's the business seed capital. It's something that we really open that up for folks to tap into equity of their rental properties and investment properties to start up a business. It's not, I'll be upfront with you that it's not necessarily our forte. During the time of COVID, we had to make some adjustments as people were scaling back on their investment purchases. And some people needed to either upgrade their business or keep things afloat, right? To kind of storm the weather of, what COVID brought to their businesses. We can still do it, but again, it's not necessarily our forte. So when you think business purposes, as long as you could substantiate it, that it's for rental or some sort of income of some sort, then we can.
Awesome. So I guess the question is, do you have an example that you could go into more detail, like if it was going to be a fix and flip? I know a lot of people on the retail side will either watch, shows, or now, when they want to ask questions about how do they get into it and do that. Do you have a more specific example of something that's a single family home that someone wants to take down?
And just a time note, it's 8:31 for whoever needed to leave at 8:30.
Yep.
For now?
My daughter was good enough to change her own clothes today, so I got a few extra minutes.
Awesome.
What do you mean exactly, Mason? For your example?
Yeah, is there any other examples that you can provide in kind of in more detail of what the process, how you guys went in helping that investor with taking down a deal, or even analyzing it?
Sure.
I guess a big one is really wholesaling deals, right? I'm sure you guys deal with some wholesalers here and there where you're driving through a neighborhood or whatnot, and you'll see a house that pretty much just looks like a teardown. Maybe the bones are good, but it just hasn't been updated since the 70s or whatnot, right? So those are kind of our special and our forte. You're going to present that deal to a bank, and they're not going to want to fund it just because there's no value in the home, whatnot. But the value comes into the after repair value, right? The ARV. And that's kind of where Flynn Family comes in, where you say, hey, this is the house that I want to take down. This is how much it's going to take for me to acquire this property. Let's say $400,000, and I need to put another $100,000 into equity or into sweat equity to finish up this home or bring it back to life, if you will. And at the end of it all, it'll be worth about $750 or so. And that's where we kind of come in, as far as you don't have $550,000 laying around, right? And that's where Flynn Family comes in, as far as we understand what the home value is, rehab budgets, and that's where we really tap into what's your schedule of real estate look like? Because most folks to do that, let's be honest, they're not going to have that cash or just that type of cash sitting on the sidelines to get that project done. And most of them are investors who have a schedule of real estate, but most investors that I'm aware, that we know or that we specialize in helping in, the issue is that they're cash poor. They might have the 20 or 30% down to acquire the home, but they're not going to have the extra $150,000 they need to rehab the house. And that's where Flynn Family comes in. We take a look at it. They could be walking in some instant equity, in which we're able to give them a loan to rehab the house and fund the rest of it. Or we could tap into their schedule of real estate, right? A lot of folks, they refinance their home over these last couple of years. They don't want to let go of a good 3 to 4% interest rate, right? But they don't necessarily qualify for a HELOC because their DTI is too high because they own 5 or 6 properties, or they don't make enough income because their homes are cash flowing just enough to cover the mortgage, but not to take on another property, in which we could leverage that equity in their schedule of real estate. Brian had a slide where it says slide 15 there, Brian. So free schedule of real estate review, we're able to type in your first mortgage, the as-is value, purchase price. And this, our own little calculator here kind of gives you the amount of equity that you're able to tap into. And so you can see the 70, 65, 60, and 50% LTV. That essentially gives us within our own margins of the amount of money that we could leverage in your schedule of real estate. And so that kind of gives you your buying power, if you will, or how much money you could tap into within your own schedule of real estate there.
Awesome. That helps. Yeah, that answers my question. Anybody else have questions?
I know it's a lot of information to digest. I mean, both Brian and I, we both came from the retail side of things. He's a loan officer, was it Numerica, if I believe?
New American.
New American. And I came from the retail side of things with Home Street Bank. So, when we dove into the private lending money side of things, it just really opened up 100 doors. I mean, we could present this thing for the next 2 hours and we still wouldn't cover all the bases or all the scenarios that we would come across. But really, bottom line is that we work with investors. I know that you guys do a lot in the retail space, but as Mason had mentioned, we want you guys to utilize us as an extra tool in the shed, right? In the instance that if you're discussing somebody with something regarding real estate investing, to utilize us as as a resource. Things won't always make sense. One of the most frustrating things when I first got on board is on the retail side of things, everything's very black and white. If it doesn't fit in this box, then you just simply can't do it. On the private money side of things, everything is the answer is it depends. It depends. And it was really frustrating for me to accept that as an answer. But now that I've, fully dived into it, it does make sense that there's a situation for everything. And for us, we don't, our motto at Flynn Family Lending is we don't like to think outside of the box because we don't believe a box exists, right? If there's a will, there's a way. Whether it's leveraging money from friends and family, maybe they got cash, maybe they have a scheduled real estate, bringing on a partner with a scheduled real estate or some properties and whatnot, we'll find a way.
Awesome.
So like for instance, like Kenrick, he has like assisted living properties, then he could get financing from those to find more. Is that
Correct.
something like you could help him with? Like,
so if he's got assisted living, it's business purpose, right? It's generating income, it's generating revenue in the sense that he finds another assisted living, but he's tapped out on cash because he's running his 2 or 3 properties or whatever he has now. He could reach out to Brian. He could type out, Brian could figure out in this scheduled real estate, what your first mortgage is, what the purchase price is for the new property, as is values of his properties now, to find out how much equity you could tap into. And essentially, we're just giving you, hey, this is your buying power. This is what we could give to you today for you to take down your next property or even rehab the properties that he has now. Right. And again, we do our own in-house evaluations. You're not having to pay for appraisals. We're not going to pull your credit. We don't care what your DTI is. As long as you have equity inside your assets, we can most likely get it done.
As long as you do make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to make sense. We don't want to see you fail.
Yeah. How long do people, like, would someone like cannot hold on to that loan? Like, are they going to, because of the rate or after they, let's say they rehab or they bought another one, is that something they could keep long term, or they should try to do a refi as soon as rates come down or something like that?
So the idea of private money lending, our terms are typically about 10 months. It's just really cash, again, a bridge loan, right? Just to get you across the finish line. And at the end, you would essentially, we would ask questions regarding your exit strategy, like how do you plan to pay back this loan? So about 10 months, we've stretched out to 18 months before for some clients that needed a little bit more time. We're pretty flexible as long as the reasons make sense. There's a difference of you sitting on 18 months and you haven't touched the project versus, hey, I got hung up on doing, my windows never came in, or, my contractor bailed out on me, or permits didn't come in. So we have flexibility in that sense. But typically this is, again, once you finish a property, once you rehab, there's going to be a lot more value as the ARV has increased in it, in which when you go back to the bank, you could do a cash out refi or a rate and term refinance. With our loans, it's interest only payments and there's no prepayment penalty as well. So it almost incentivizes you to finish this project early so you could rate and term refinance with a bank, or conventionally, I should say.
And that's when they could work with Alex to do the conventional refi, and it seems great because they could talk to you about what are those exit strategies and be creative in thinking, what are their options to increase their
Correct.
value or buy more or expand your portfolio. So like an agent like this group where they're retail, what would you say to get them thinking? Like, do you have examples of other agents like them who are like, wow, they've learned how to use you as a tool more proactively? Would it be like, if they know they have a client who has a lot of equity and has been talking about investing, then would that be a part, like they could connect you to educate them about what are the possibilities of how much buying power they have, and then they can then present a potential property they could potentially buy, whether it's in state or out of state, with that money, and the exit strategy. It's like it's like a there's like a total plan. But is that something what do you think about that? Or to give them some ideas of like, wow, you guys are powerful, but like learning how to take advantage and use what you can do and sharing that with their network.
If you have high equity clients, send them to connect us and we'll chat with them and we'll get them squared away.
No, absolutely, Michelle. You're right in that sense that other hard money lenders, if you fit within that box, they'll lend you the funds. I hate to say it, but for them, it is a business model to where, you're going to collect this high interest rate, and worst case scenario, they collect your home. Flynn Family Lending, because we're very hyper local and family owned and operated business. We've been in business for about 8 or 9 years here or so. I really see us as A to Z white glove type services, to where, we're here to set you up for success and not failure. We're not in the business to take people's homes or hope that they default. I've spoke to other lenders before. Their default rates are anywhere between 25 to 40%. Flynn Family Lending, because we sit there and we go through the process and we ensure that you have the liquidity to refinance at the end. We poke holes in your exit strategy to make sure that it's right. I'm very proud to say that our default rate's only 3.5%. It's very, very low. And it's because we take the time, it's because we're all investors, and it's because we care that we've seen those situations before. I mean, just yesterday, I had a prospect call me. He's in the military. He's just on private salary, and he got a deal to do seller financing on an 8-plex in Tacoma for $1.7 million. So he's super stoked, super excited about it. We kind of slowed that process down before I even had him fill out an application. What's your exit strategy? How are you going to pay for this debt? What's your carrying cost? If you got to do rehab to this property, how are you going to do that? And it was kind of a dose of reality for him of, he can't afford a $12,000 interest only payment. He doesn't have enough cash to, refinance at the end. And he didn't even think about how much it's going to cost him to rehab this property. And so in the end, he ended up having to walk away from the deal. He admittedly said, I was super excited. It was the first time I was able to negotiate seller financing, but you gave me a dose of reality that I can't afford nearly $2 million project. So we got to start out at a smaller scale.
I think also, Michelle, what we'll do is Brian and I have, talked about getting together here recently before we each knew that we were going to be on this meeting. And what Brian and I will do is we'll get together and kind of come up with maybe a scenario or two that we can display on my Wednesday mastermind meeting. And we'll just kind of walk it down. How can agents invest for themselves? How can we utilize Flynn Family funding for our investor clients? How can Nam and Brian both help us? And we'll just kind of go. This meeting was designed to kind of introduce them and be more high level, but we'll definitely drill down on some specific examples, Michelle, to give everybody an idea of how they can participate using Flynn Family Lending and for themselves and also for their clients.
Sounds great. I want to feature on another webinar your sister and that Cody guy. Like that sounds amazing what they've been doing in the local market, so that's
No,
great.
Brianna's amazing. I recruited her to my former company. That's how I met Brian. And so we'll definitely have her. We'll definitely see if we can get together with her for sure.
Sounds
You can bring
good.
her on.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, thank you, Nam and Brian, for sharing the information and the stories and the experiences.
Absolutely.
I
Thank you for having
appreciate you
us.
guys having us. What I'll do is I'll send. Well, Mason has our contact information. Again, I know that you may not have a lot of questions now, but at some point in time down the road, that old adage of winter is coming, right? There's going to be a lot of deals that are going to be popping up over these next couple months to where I think you're going to run into those conversations of what are you guys doing in this situation? Again, there's no stupid questions or anything. Feel free to reach out to Brian or myself. We'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you again. Yeah, if anybody has any more questions, we can always connect offline. And thank you guys again. Thank you, Nam and Brian.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Let's see. Any other questions that have come up that either from them or that we want to discuss?
I have question, somewhat, I'm not sure if you guys have time to discuss this. I have a property in Arlington I just saw this morning. I sent it to Rick this morning. I'm not sure you receive it or not. Are you able to pull it up for me, Mason, right now?
Yeah.
And we can see if this is gonna help, other agents as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this is about here. So this is, if there's a situation that we could help with, then let's talk about it. You guys can see my screen?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, Gianna.
Okay. Yeah, the MLS number is 201-6421. So this property is a cash offer only, and the remark said that the owner, this is kind of like new home, but it's like been 19. I think they've been listed for a while. Not a while, but I meant like built is like 2018.
Yep.
And doesn't seem like anybody lived in here. Is that what they say? And then encroachment problems. So if somebody want to get this property with encroachment, because the price it seemed like it's a fair price, right? To do cash offer.
Mm-hmm.
But the encroachment, is there a big problem? You and Rick have been encounter anything like this in the past with any property at all? Not even like mobile home.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason why it's priced at 155 is the encroachment, right? So it's a massive amount of problem. And then also, it's a manufactured home. So what exactly is the encroachment issue? Do we know?
Yeah, well, will I find that information? That's my next question.
So it says the prior owner of the property received notice from the adjacent property owner, the Bonneville Power Administration, of possible encroachments along the eastern property line. The BPA has requested that all such encroachments be removed. Attached is a map prepared by the BPA showing its representation of the property lines and encroachments. Property is not qualified for conventional financing.
Yeah, cash out.
So
that's mean they say like about half an acres of lot. That may not be true. Is that right? Because of encroachment, it may be less.
Yeah, so the encroachment means that well, let's take a look at let's find the map and actually see what. That is not it. So maybe this is the map that they're talking about. So this is the manufactured home garage in the area. And it has the BPA lines here.
So what we're trying to determine is what is the square that's right smack in the middle of the encroachment? This square with the X on it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be an outbuilding or something. So what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to have a conversation with the listing agent and find out, what's the issue here? What's the problem?
Okay.
Instead of trying to, just I mean, it's their listing. They have to, they're going to be the best source to tell us, what the issue is.
Right, but then have you guys help a client or yourself purchase any home that have encroachment issues? Is it easy to fix? Is it cost wise, average how much?
It's going to be case by case basis.
Yeah, and I mean, the tough part about this, Johnny, is that it doesn't go away. So, these people are selling it because it's for whatever reason for them, it's either they need to sell and this is an issue that they don't want to take the time to correct. I mean, if it's obvious the easements exists, and so it's the reason why we do title insurance. It's the reason why we do a preliminary title report. It's the first thing that I tell every single one of my buyers is that, you can see out this window right here. My property line, my side property line is right out this window. Well, that's a driveway running up to my neighbor that lives up above here. Even though technically it's my land, he has an easement to drive across it. So I can't build a garage right in the middle of that easement because that would block his free use and access to his property. So it looks like that's what's happened here is that they've, built an outbuilding until I know what it is. They're right in the middle of, not right in the middle, but on the border of that easement.
I would say though, Gianni have you talked to the listing agent about this?
No, I just saw this morning, but I'm just curious about cost why if something like this, does happen in the past with you guys, just to get estimate ideas.
Well, here's the next steps that, if you want to dig further into it, it's definitely worthwhile because this is just, again, to build up your knowledge of what's going on here. You have great questions and the answers to them, you're going to start getting them as you dig more into it. So talking with the listing agent, finding out what they know about the property and what problems they've come across with either other buyers or what they feel what kind of problems would come up. Because most likely the seller has also talked to attorneys about this as well. So you need to try to get as much information, and they may even have an idea of what, how this could be resolved or how much it's going to cost to be resolved. So it's definitely worthwhile for you to start digging into this. But I would start definitely with the listing agent and finding out with what the listing agent has already discovered themselves. And this is just that snippet of it. And so you just continue asking questions, and I think you'll get more answers to it.
But
right.
I think it's important to realize that the easement that exists here, they're not going to change the easement for this building. Most likely that building has to come down. It's built across their easement. I mean,
so what do you think, Rick? That square box there, you think that is the owner who's trying to sell this house right now, the one who put that on, or the neighbor who put that box on there, for example?
No, I would say it would be the owner because the way that I'm understanding this is a power line easement for Bonneville Power Association, right? So Bonneville Power is a huge power distribution for a lot of like local like when I lived in Redding, California, we got all of our power from Bonneville Power. So it's all coming usually from Hoover Dam, these high transmission lines that are going from Hoover Dam, you know, across the west to various little towns. And so that is a, you know, most likely a high transmission property easement is probably running through there. You can see it right there. You can see it in the triangle shaped right there, the middle. That's a high power. Yep. That's running right through the property there. And so looking at, you can see that outbuilding, I think that's the outbuilding. If we go back to the other map, I thought there was already a garage, but this looks like this detached building right there is.
So here's the garage here.
Yeah. But what's this building way over here? See, that's what I don't see, the building that has the X in it. I don't see what that.
That actually might be the power line itself, the structure right here. This.
Oh, maybe the foundation for the power line.
Yeah.
So then this power line is actually used to support the whole neighbor, or just this particular home only?
No. It has nothing to do with this home whatsoever. It's so these power lines run power at a higher distribution to what's the word?
The transport.
I can't think of the not a subdivision. I'll think of it in a second, but basically these high tension power lines take power down to a substation, and the substation then converts the power into what you see running around town. You know, that's more the 110 that can go around, 240, 110 that can go around town. And so the reason why these high tension power lines are built is because it's easier to transport the power over long distances, you know, in this way. And then it comes down to a substation, which will convert the power down for local distribution around, you know, a city. And so, yeah, this is like a federal, you know, this is like a national federal, these transmission lines are national federal. So yeah, we have to determine what it is that is encroaching. You know, how is it that this property is encroaching upon Bonneville Power? So
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, that's interesting that you just brought that up, because so if the property is encroaching on the Bonneville Power, because like here, you know, the owner of, based off of the satellite maps, it's owned by BPA. And then this is the property listing is only this small section here.
That's weird. Wow.
So then the whole.
Yeah, so it's worse than, it potentially looks worse than what we originally thought.
So it's like half of the home, more than half, only 1/3 of the home is belonging to the land, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, this is a big encroachment issue then, versus like, I've got, you know, a property that was out in Everett that has an encroachment issue where the neighbor's shed was over on the seller's property, and so they built it because it was a big piece of land. Then, you know, that has to be a negotiations between both neighbors on how they want to resolve it, and
right.
Getting attorneys involved to either draft up something that could be recorded to say that, okay, this structure is allowed to be here. And
that's my point. Bonneville Power is not going to bend to anybody. They own this land. This is their land. So if something was placed incorrectly on their land, that's not their issue. They're not going to, you know, oh, we'll just go ahead and draw a boundary around your home so that you can still have it there. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, you could see here, like, the BPA is owning everything that is on the side here. And so
my father-in-law used to be head of right-of-way for the state of California, which is basically, my father-in-law was the chief real estate agent for the state of California. So that when freeways would expand, I mean, one of the major projects, you know, at the time that he was doing was when Disneyland was expanding, then his job was to go and purchase the land alongside the freeways, you know. And so I mean, the federal government, cities and counties